manager for Site, so I look after SightCall in the UK and Northern Europe. I'm joined by my much more able assistant.
Hey everyone, name's Max. Mike's on the moment.
He's great with technology. So Max looks after our solutions team across the region. He's got a lot of experience in what we do as an organisation, and we'll be touching on a bit of that as we run through today's conversation and demo. So what does SightCall do? We've been around since 2008, and we are industry leading in remote visual support software. So effectively taking a guest, whether that's a policyholder who's trying to make a claim, whether it's a consumer who's trying to make their boiler work at home, it might be a field tech, connecting them with an expert and being able to empower that person out in the field to make decisions, whether it's troubleshooting, triage, identification, and ultimately speeding up that resolution of what they're trying to achieve. And that's really where we've been working, and it's great to see. I know there's a few of our customers here today, so it's really great to see you, and also partners, guys like the CoreLogics of the world, and we're really excited to be a part of this event. And I know it's been a while coming. As I say, we work across a number of different industries, and that really helps us then bring that kind of learnings and expertise from other regions and other verticals into the space that we're in, that we're talking about today. So things like telehealth, obviously, we don't talk about the thing that's happened in the last year and a half, but telehealth has obviously been a big area of focus, and that's been something that we've certainly learned a lot from in the last year and a half. But also field technology, field service environments, and also customer service. And I think hearing from the consumer side of things, that's really important. I mean, we really get a lot of learning from that customer service and that consumer side of the house, and that's really where we're going to start talking about today. Now, if you think about what's happened in the last year and a half, but actually even before that, we said about mobile first, things like this kind of, people demand this kind of 24/7, this kind of culture of now, and that's really something that we're seeing driving a lot of the service experience right across multiple different verticals, multiple different regions. And so if you think about the key players in that space, guys like an Uber, Deliveroo and Amazon, they really focus and excel on that customer service. So they bring high quality, they also make availability a key priority for them, and also they can then control the costs. So from their perspective, they're very successful because they deliver exactly what a consumer needs. Thinking about that from, just take the example of Amazon. So you get a delivery, you know exactly when that delivery is going to come, you can track it, A to B right the way through from the name of the driver who's delivering it to your house and when it's been delivered. Likewise, I can remotely, if I'm not at home, which is quite rare at the moment, but if I'm not at home, I can then divert that delivery to exactly where I need it to go. So I have complete control end to end over that. If something goes wrong, I can then go online and I have access to almost unlimited tools at my disposal simply through one interface, whether it's the mobile, whether it's online, however I want to do it. And I can then make decisions on how to use the product that I've got. If the product's not working, some troubleshooting tips. If I need to return it, I can do all of that without ever actually talking to a person, and I can do all of that at a time that's convenient for me. And so ultimately, that's where really I think a lot of the consumers are driving their focus as they go forward, and they're making decisions based upon that kind of experience. So what does that mean in the insurance space? So obviously from that side, again, you've got policyholders who are now driving how they can get that kind of value, and we just touched on it there, this transformation of demonstrating value. Now, obviously, we are going to focus on the FNOL and the nasty bit of insurance where potentially something's gone wrong for people, but that happens right the way across the space. So whether it's I want to check details of my policy, I want to update something around my policy. For example, I might be looking to purchase this new car. I might have a look at it and see has it ever had any damage? Has it been in an accident? Clearly it has. So I can then start to get a quote and understand a little bit more about what's happening simply by doing some kind of self-serve enablement. Likewise, I might want to change the wheels on it. What's that going to mean for my policy? And if I can do all of that in my own time and at my own leisure, then ultimately I have a much better experience of exactly driving that sort of behaviour and hopefully then demonstrating a lot more value from it. So ultimately, from a consumer side, that gives me that empowers me. I can make those kind of decisions, make those changes and choices. From an insurer, being able to support that kind of 24/7 need you either have to follow the same process and systems that you've been doing today and greatly scale up your environment. So you might have to scale up your support desks, you might have to scale up to 24/7 across multiple regions and multiple expertise, or you start to leverage technology to do that. And that kind of technology is really built around this self-serve concept. So that ability for an end consumer, whether they're a policyholder, or they might be an adjuster or a field technician, whatever it might be, their ability to self-serve. And from our side, that's really why we transition some of our services across to what we're calling SightCall digital flows, which is enabling a guest out in the field to start to drive different behaviours, follow processes, upload information, take contextual actions, and push all of that into a back office. What does that mean? So what I think we're going to do now is we'll run through a little bit of a demo of it. Now, I'm going to hold my hands up to this and say I couldn't figure out how to share my phone on there, so I've got a notification, I've got a video of what's happening on there, and we're going to run through that. But you can see here I'm following a digital process as we go through. So if I'm going to do this, we're going to start off from somewhere. So this could be, it could be online, it could be a portal that you've gone into. You might start it with a QR code, for example, to authenticate. It might even be an app that you're using your Face ID to do. And so then from that process, we then go into and start that digital process. So as I click through, these are all services that you can define. So you go in online, define what that different process is, what journey your policyholder is going to take. So it might be I want to update the policy. I want to see how much those new wheels are going to cost me on that thing. I might want to speak to an advisor if there's been an emergency or an accident and I want to speak to someone straight away. But in the case we're talking about today, it's ultimately about processing that claim. So as we step through that journey, again, depending on the choices that are made, it talks to your back office, whatever tools and systems and process you've got, and it makes those decisions with you. So is it theft or loss? Is it accidental damage, car damage in that case? Today we're going to focus on the house damage. So as we run through and step through this different process, we dig into different elements of your own internal systems and then talk about, right, we're going down the journey of house damage. So all of this is self-serve, all of it's driven by your own teams and how you want to drive that behaviour. If you look here, we've got a number of different options we can have. Obviously, some of those are immediate questions that you've got, others are going to be more, going through the flow of it. So we've selected there flood. Now, it might be at that point, you take someone off and say, is it a live flood? Because I might need to get a plumber out. Or do I need to call the environment agency? Or in the case of this, actually, is it a case that the damage has been done and we're now dealing with the clear up of it? So from that perspective, instead of just having a photo uploaded or some more details added, your own policy internally and your process might say, actually, what I need to do at this point is escalate that to a live video session. And again, all of that is being driven by the consumer in their own time as they go through. So we step into that, and then from that perspective, I select live session and I go into the next part of this session, which is then where we can switch across to ultimately escalating that to live video. Again, leveraging the resources at the right time, and then that will come in on I love live. Exactly. Excellent, there we are.
So you can see here that actually we've got here an incoming SightCall request from Richard as the policyholder, and I'm going to go ahead as the claims advisor, and I'm just going to accept that. And that's going to go ahead and not just launch the video, but it's actually going to take the contextual information that we had as part of that flow, and then that's going to give that to me as the claims advisor. So I can go in here and you can see we've got that information, the house claim, the flood damage, etc. And now I can see exactly what Richard sees through his smartphone back camera.
And you'll see here, again, depending on what kind of flow, what kind of process you've got, what your internal governance and policies are, at the moment it's asking me to share my GPS. Yep, so it's sharing my location. Now, we're very specific at SightCall. We don't like to hold on to data. We don't like to control personally identifiable information. But obviously, as an insurer, that's really valuable information. So from that side, you get explicit consent from the policyholder. There was a sticker on the chair earlier here that said consent is sexy, which I think is certainly the case when it comes to your data and sharing that information. You have to have that policyholder accepting that. So again, having done that, it shares our location at the end there, and you can then go into a normal policy without pushing them down the route of fraud detection, for example.
All right, fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and actually go ahead and process this claim for Rich. So Rich, if you wouldn't mind just pointing at the damage. Okay, so I can see that there is some damage, there's some contents damage as well here. But what we're interested in at the moment is the immediate flood damage. So Rich, if you could get into a position, maybe so that I can see that corner over there, fantastic. And I'm just going to go ahead, and for a second, I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in. So we're just going to use the optical zoom here of the camera so that we can see exactly that we've got the kind of flood, the flood line there. But also, it's not entirely clear, so let's just go one step further and let's actually enable the flashlight on Rich's device. So we've gone ahead here and we've actually got the flood line, we've illuminated this quite literally. I'm going to go ahead and now just pause the video and just confirm with Rich that this is exactly where I want this to be and that I've got the flood line here. So I'm just going to go ahead, annotate on this and say, Rich, is that roughly the flood line that you've got there?
And again, from that, you've got that two-way interaction, you know, that we've been doing this for years. You guys know a lot of this already. But again, you're getting that in, so at the right time with the expert, you're then able to confirm. And obviously I can say, yep, up to this line, this is ultimately where the flood came in. It's cleared out now. So then they can start the process of fulfillment.
Yeah, fantastic. Exactly. So if I go ahead, click on save, that's going to save that, end the session. And we're also able to send those photos directly to the contractor because it's just stored immediately into the claim. Fantastic. Thanks, Rich.
Wonderful. And so what you can see there, as we went through that process, the information that we've gathered up front, so all of that detail that you went through, what's your policy detail, what's your location, where are you, what is it you're trying to achieve? You're steering a policyholder through that process and guiding them to a point so that by the time they actually escalate to an expensive live human resource, you've actually cleared out a lot of that information, yeah? So you're not waiting for me to go through various drawers and try and find my policy document. You've got all of that information captured there. It's then a credible conversation that the experienced expert is having with you, and you're really making the most of that expert's time. And ultimately what we're doing with this product launch that we're going through is, we're leveraging that kind of capability and our key strengths. So, for, as I say, nearly 15 years, we've been really at the top of the industry when it comes to connecting a guest, whether it's a policy holder who's needing to make a claim, or whether it's a field expert, an adjuster who's out and needs to get a second opinion. We've been connecting them with a remote expert, and we've been doing that for years. What this does is actually decouple that whole conversation. So instead of it being your claims management system with an expert sitting in front of it talking directly out to their end user, what we're saying is that end user can talk to any kind of tools or systems or leverage any kind of capability that you have. And we're going to see a lot of those today as we run through these various different sessions. But if you think about it, by actually being able to do that, you then get these kind of contextual actions as you follow a digital process flow that you're pushing out to that customer. So it could be at the very start of I've had a car accident, for example. The very first thing you do is you prompt them to share their geolocate. And if they've got a national policy and they've had an accident in Europe, in that case, that immediately flags up to say that's not covered by your policy. Likewise, if someone declines a geolocate, you might push that down another path and push that into a fraud detection. And we'll see some of those guys later on, digging into those kind of particular details. And you can leverage those different tools and services and levers as you route through. So firstly, you're helping that policymaker make the right decision and get the best possible service, but also from that perspective, you're protecting yourself as an organisation. So, providing that level of flexibility to the policyholder so that they can go on in their own time, at a time of their choosing, and they have complete control, whether that's talking to your policy database, whether that's going into your claims management system and making a claim. It could be going through as we said, you push them to fraud detection, or ultimately it could just be about talking to a person to get an update, particularly if they've had something like a car accident. You want to put that person in touch with an expert straight away because that's a traumatic experience they've been through. Now, I'm mindful that I've been talking for a while, so I'm getting to the point where I'm going to start wrapping up. From our perspective, technology has to do something, yeah? There has to be a reason for it. And from our perspective, this is really about three key objectives that I think sit well within the insurance sector. So firstly, using this kind of capability is really about reducing your expense ratio, okay? So you're increasing the actual use of highly experienced and ultimately expensive resources on your desks. You're making sure that you're only using them when they actually are going to add key value. not when, you know, Mrs. Miggins is searching through trying to find a policy document for 10 minutes. I don't want a live expert sitting on that call at that time. What I want is once they've got all of that information, it's presented to them right in front in their systems, it's gone through all the ticks as part of your standard policies, and you then are just called in at the right time to make the right decision. And that's an important sector in that space. Secondly, and we touched on it a little bit earlier around the consumer side, it's around that customer experience. You know, people expect a level of experience now. Everyone's walking around with, you know, at least one smart device that they go everywhere for. They might be on the train going into work and they decide at that point, actually, I'm going to check some details on my policy. Or actually, I'm going to follow up on that claim that's been happening. They expect to be able to do that in a time that they want and that's convenient to them. And they expect to get that information straight away. You either have to scale up your entire environment to do that, or you start to leverage this kind of capability. And then the last point is about decreasing that loss ratio. So it's about getting proper, accurate information, storing that kind of information, being able to make decisions in real time, you know, as someone's going through a policy claim or whatever it might be, pushing them off to, you know, risk. If there's a potential fraud risk, push them off to the guys who are experts in fraud. So you start to go through that, and ultimately it's about hitting those three key objectives. So as I said, very nice to kick it off tonight. It's been a while. It's been a while coming, and we're milling around for the rest of it. We're looking forward to some of the other demos and conversations. So by all means, just stop us, and we'll answer any questions you've got.
Start.